I find it a mystery how Newcastle are still behind Manchester United in the table. Well, hello again from a very snowy Benton, Newcastle United's training ground here. We did well to make it, actually. Yeah, a little bit of snow in the UK, and we do come to a standstill. So we were depleted in number at the press pack this morning, although as I said to Eddie when he did walk in, that some of the faces he wanted to be missing sadly weren't. Yeah, the snow hadn't taken them out, and he did agree. I don't know if I was among that number. Just saying the snow hasn't taken out the ones who wanted it to. I know, I didn't want to say it. Anyway, yeah, I'll join you again shortly from the streets of Gosforth, and we'll see how they're looking on this glorious morning, and there'll be updates, big updates on fitness news there. Joe Willock in particular, there's good news on him. I'll bring you more on that shortly, but I couldn't not bring you a little glimpse of Benton here. Okay, see you soon, guys. Well, here we are on the streets of Gosforth, slightly later than advertised. That's because one of my children is poorly today and is at home with me and my wife, and we had the usual debate, whose job is more important, and she won, because here I am, the snow has melted from this morning and it's nearly dark, so there you go. Anyway, yeah, Eddie's press conference today, an awful lot to pick through. He was in quite a spiky mood on the back of the VAR controversy during the week. I'll tell you a little bit of what was said shortly, but one question which he didn't give a spiky response to, and I think made him smile because it was so ridiculous, was the question I asked of him, and that was, will you be encouraging your team to shoot on Saturday against Manchester United, Eddie? He said, well, yes, that's usually the plan, and if I didn't, there would be problems. But I think he saw the inference of what I was getting at an absolute mile off, and that was Andre Onana. I couched the question in a way of, you've got a goalkeeper in Nick Pope who saves shots, and you've got one in Andre Onana who doesn't. The sweeper keeper, I saw a wonderful description of Onana this week as being the game's first false one, which did make me smile. When you watched him play against Galatasaray on Wednesday night, and if you're Eddie Howe or you guys from a Newcastle perspective, with what is going to be a wet and wild St James's tomorrow night, you're just thinking shoot on sight, just skid them towards his target. Kieran Trippier's dead balls, how much of a problem could they cause the Manchester United goalkeeper in this game? So that is what I was getting at, but Eddie wasn't about to disrespect any opposition player. He never does. So yeah, he sidestepped that one quite skillfully. But on Manchester United, now I have to say, I find it a mystery how Newcastle are still behind Manchester United in the table. In fact, I find it a mystery how half the league are behind Manchester United. I was on, and I think I've mentioned this to you guys before, I was on Sky, the back pages tonight in about March time. And I wasn't speaking from a position of strength. It was shortly after Man United beating Newcastle in the Carabao Cup final. But I said, I don't think they're very good. And I stand by that. They're a team who, what is it, they've won I think 5 of the last 6 in the Premier League, which you can't get away from that. It's a good run, and to a certain degree do you have to applaud teams for winning when they're not necessarily playing well? I don't know, but I look at them and I don't see a plan, I don't see a strategy. There are certain elements of Manchester United that evoke memories of Steve Bruce's Newcastle, in that what you're seeing with your own eyes doesn't necessarily tally with the end output of results. Now ultimately, Man United supporters or Eric Ten Hag would say, well, results are all that matters. Well, I don't think they are. I think there is a lot of merit in, XG and just your performances. Just use your eyes, and it tells you. So to that end, long way around, my conclusion is that I think Manchester United coming to St James's Park tomorrow night, I think that is a very winnable game for Newcastle. I do, they proved that down there with the second string. I think it was called a third string on the night, didn't I? Slightly tongue-in-cheek, don't take offence. I think one or two thought I was having a pop at those involved. At the time I wasn't. It just showed how far removed that was from what was probably Eddie's strongest side. But yeah, they won that night, they won well. It's put them into the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup. But now the challenge for Newcastle, I think, is to be beating these, I was going to say top teams, I'm going to call Man United a top team based on everything I've just said, but to beat these big names on a regular basis, to make it the norm. We've seen they've done that with Manchester United a couple of times now. The last 2 at St James's have been victories over Chelsea and over Arsenal as well. The next step for me is still the 2 best teams in the country are, well, you put Arsenal there, but also attached to that, Liverpool and Man City. Newcastle under Eddie Howe haven't yet beat either of those, but another night at St James's against Man United, I fully expect them, even in the state they're in, with the injuries, the depleted number, I would still expect them to go and win that game tomorrow night. Now, on injuries, Joe Willock is the big news. Now, when Joe Willock, it was reported last week that he'd suffered a recurrence of his Achilles injury, straight away you worry. You worry that is, I said this at the time, didn't I? Achilles are very important to footballers and to people in general. You've seen with other players, the likes of Jack Wilshere, how it can almost be career ending eventually, but it certainly derails a player in terms of being able to be at their very best. And I think a few of us did fear that. Well, the good news today from Eddie is that he couldn't put a time frame on it, but the news from the specialist, he went to see a specialist on Tuesday, is that it's not, quote, serious, it's not long term. So we could be looking at seeing Joe Willock back before Christmas or around Christmas time, and that for Newcastle is an absolutely huge boost. What else have we got? Well, I reported earlier in the week, Sven Botman. Now, this has been a little bit of a mystery. Week on week with Eddie's gave the same answer, and today's wasn't massively different, but I reported earlier in the week that Botman is now training individually. The knee hasn't flared up, and as it stands, he will not need surgery. That remains the case. Eddie confirmed all of that, so I would say that's also good news on Botman. Not so good news is Sean Longstaff. Now, Longstaff injured his ankle down at Bournemouth. He played on in that game, and on reflection, that looks as if it might have perhaps caused a little bit of damage. Again, no time frame. He won't be back for Manchester United tomorrow, so says Eddie, and I think we're probably looking at another week to a couple of weeks there. Callum Wilson is getting closer. We fully expect to see him back before Christmas, as we do maybe Harvey Barnes as well. So things are starting to clear up ever so slightly, but not in time for tomorrow's game against Man United, when Newcastle will go with the same 11, almost convinced of this, the same 11 they used on Tuesday night in Paris, and that is what they're playing with at the moment, 11 players. Matt Ritchie, Emil Kraft will come back in, but with all respect to Matt Ritchie and Emil Kraft, you wouldn't have them down as challenging for a starting 11, placing the starting 11, so Eddie's options remain not limited. There are no options really. He'll play that team. Nonetheless, I still think they should on Tuesday night, going into a game 3 days after Chelsea, they can, it's to their enormous credit that they are able to go again. They've got players in there who are proving themselves to be extremely robust. Trippier, Gordon, Livramento now, we spoke about that with Eddie this morning, is beginning to fall into that bracket no matter what is thrown at him. The young man just deals with it. Lewis Miley, 2 games in 3-4 days, he'll go again tomorrow night. And Eddie was actually very keen to make this point with us today. While they are stretched, he said, we've got no excuses here. He said we've had an extra day's recovery compared to Man United. We've played well on Tuesday night. He said, these are Eddie's words, he said, so yeah, we go into this game tomorrow, with feeling good. He wasn't about to say to his players, whoa, sorry us, because we've only got certain amount of players available. Absolutely not. And I keep on coming back to this point. I'm giving you ample opportunity to clip this up and make me look stupid, but I'm fully expecting a home win tomorrow. Now, I mentioned there before that Eddie was in spiky mood this morning. Maybe spiky was the wrong word, but certainly when it comes to us guys, the handful of us who made it there, when afterwards we gathered together and you go look back over the quote, there's some really strong stuff there, and I'll put the link on screen now to the story I've written, and it's Eddie encouraging his players to feel as if the world is against them. Now, this is a view which has been strengthened on the back of what happened in Paris on Tuesday in the VAR controversy. By the way, Newcastle have asked for clarity from UEFA. I think the clarity we already know now. The VAR official was subsequently dropped from his next game. The clarity will be given that it was an incorrect decision. We saw the following night the decisions, Arsenal and Bayern Munich, further solidified that view that the call in the Parc des Princes was just wrong. It really was wrong. Let's not go over that too much. Eddie didn't today to a degree, but he did talk about VAR in a wider sense. Get into that in seconds. I thought his views were really interesting. But yeah, he said, we, Newcastle, his words again, he said we've got to use that feeling of the world being against us to bring the squad closer together, to bring the group closer together as a whole, and to let supporters know that they are fighting everybody beyond Newcastle. Every week, it was only 2 weeks ago we were talking about the issues with the Premier League and the rule changes that were attempted to be brought in were subsequently blocked. So yeah, it does feel as if Newcastle want for that motivation, there are ample examples and opportunities for them to cling to and to use it. And Tuesday night was one such other instance of that. Now, VAR, Eddie spoke really well on this. He speaks well on most things. And I'm a big advocate of VAR. I've said to you guys before, I think that I wrote Mark Clattenburg's book during lockdown 3 years ago. VAR was new in at that point. We spoke a lot about it, and also subsequently since, you know, I've written a lot of his columns, and I've done a lot of work in this area. I think VAR does more good than bad. I think it gets more right than wrong. I've always been that. I think it's a great deterrent as well. You know, the sleeping policeman on the bridge, you know, a lot of reasons. But honestly, even now, I'm beginning to wonder if the game would be better off without it. Speaking to Eddie today, he certainly thinks that. The one thing he said he would keep it for is offside. He said, because that's right or wrong. Yes, the calls may be frustrating, but he said it's black and white. So there you go. The rest of it, he said, it's almost becoming, you know, one person's opinion against another person's opinion against another person's opinion. And I'm with him on that. And Tuesday night was just an example of VAR at its very, very worst. A correct call on the pitch being overturned to an incorrect call, and how sad that is that a game, and such a big game, you know, can be settled on that. He said he doesn't want to see more VAR. There's talk now of beyond that, you know, sin bins, but then, you know, VAR being used beyond the penalty box for different incidents. You know, he just said no, it really will ruin the game, and he wants to see it stripped right back. And one thing I really did agree with what he said: let the referee the game. You know, the referee on Tuesday, World Cup final referee, he'd had a fantastic game. He'd resisted all of the pressure. I thought he was excellent. But then, because of the pressure, not from, well, yes, from PSG and the home fans, but as much from his own people, the recommendation, the VAR review, is that ultimately the pressure that's made the difference. Eddie hinted at that today, and he said, no, the guy in the middle of the park, he can feel the game. He knows the game. He's got a smell of it, if you like. Stick with his instinct. In that case on Tuesday night, his instinct was absolutely correct. And I'm going to bring you this quick little tale. As I was walking back through the press box at the Parc des Princes, I saw Michael Laudrup, who was in there, and you know, wow, Michael Laudrup, I couldn't not take the opportunity to talk to him. But what did we speak about? Well, after I told him that in 1990 I bought a Laudrup 7 shirt in Mallorca, and now my little boy, my oldest boy, he's wearing it to play football. After I got that out of the way, he did want to talk about the referee's decision, and Michael actually jumped up on his feet, and he was just going through me how ludicrous it was, and how, if you're a player, how can you possibly have a penalty given you against you when a ball deflects off your body and up onto your arm. Everything we've already been over, but when you've got someone like Michael Laudrup in your corner, you guys, I think it's worth mentioning. Well, that's it for now, and let's just hope by the time we come to reflect in 24 hours time, we are not mentioning VAR, and we're instead reflecting on what I think has all the ingredients to be an absolutely cracking game. You know, the let's effing give it to them Eddie dream talk last year. There's so much to it. This really has been a rivalry massively renewed during the course of the past 12 to 18 months. So yeah, I'm massively looking forward to it. Like I say, I'll be back from inside St James's Park. Thanks again for watching, guys. Please comment, please like, please hit subscribe as well, and click on those links below, and I'll see you again soon. Okay, take care. Bye bye.